One of the things that happens when you compete is they don't let you do any kind of introduction because your time starts, but I'm not timed, so I'm going to take this opportunity to give a little introduction to myself because my Achilles heel is my pride. So this is actually also the very first story that I ever told at a story slam. And the reason I wanted to tell it tonight is because I've told this story multiple times, but I've used it to compete twice. The first time I used it to compete was the very first time they ever did the story slam in Clayton, New York, and there were 8 people in attendance. The second time I told it, I was competing to be on the Moth, and it was done virtually. So I've never actually been able to tell kind of my kickoff into storytelling story in front of a live studio audience. But I have that opportunity tonight, so I am going to take that. You are about to hear what is affectionately within my circle called the broken nose story. The very first man I dated after I got divorced was a man I had been in love with when he was a boy in high school. I lived in New York, and he lived in Florida. And so, of course, we thought it would make sense for us to meet in the middle in Maryland, where his company was having a conference. I didn't actually know how big his company was until I got there for our date and realized the entire hotel and conference center had been rented out by his company. Literally everyone staying in the hotel was someone that he worked with, worked for, or was the boss of. Let's just say the date went really well because I was still there the next morning. I remember waking up at 6, 7, something, and he was saying to me, listen, don't get up. There is no hot water left in the hotel because we all have to go down and be at breakfast at exactly the same time. So go back to sleep, wait till there's hot water, order breakfast, whatever. I'll come back up at lunch and we'll figure out what we're going to do after that. So that's what I did. I didn't think about the repercussions of someone taking a shower with no hot water several hours before I was to use that same shower. So I get up, it's probably 8:30, and I go in and I turn on the spigot in the tub, and hot water starts flowing. I pull the little stopper and shower turns on. I push back the curtain and I step in with my right foot. And immediately, all the soap that had been left in the bottom of the tub by the cold water that didn't dissolve it starts to get slippery. And my right leg goes out up from underneath me. And that little corner of the tub where the tub walls meet makes the exact shape of my forehead. I fall down and I hit my face on the part of the tub that gets just a little wider in the corner. I immediately pass out, and something I didn't realize until later was that my right foot had kicked up the bathtub stopper. So I wake up several seconds or moments later with hot, soapy, bloody water lapping at my face, and I have massive amounts of pain, but I'm thinking, well, I can't lay here, so I kind of crawl over the edge of the tub and steady myself. I don't want to fall again, and I can't really figure out what feels so wrong. So I make my way over to the sink and I make this big swipe across the mirror, and it's kind of all red smeared. And I look at myself, and my cute little nose that really should be pointing kind of straight ahead is pointing to the northeast. I have my pride, so I say to myself, self, you can fix this. And I grabbed onto my nose and I pushed it back into place. And I immediately passed out again. I hit my chin on the way down and then my nose. So when I wake up the second time, my head is stuck to the floor in a pool of blood. And if you don't know anything about facial injuries, let me tell you, they bleed a lot. So I grab the first thing that I can find, which is a white towel. Here we go again. And I hold it to my face. And I go out to the bed and I grab my phone and I type what I think says, I've fallen in the shower. I think I'm going to have to go to the emergency room. And I send it to him. I also, because I'm very conscientious and prideful, call housekeeping and say, there's some blood in the bathroom up here. I just think somebody probably is going to want to come clean that. So a few minutes later, I hear a timid little knock on the door, and when I open the door, I'm wearing a white bathrobe that is stained with blood, holding a towel to my face that is stained with blood, and in front of me is the smallest 12-year-old security guard I have ever seen in my life, and he says, "Excuse me, I heard there was some blood up here. Is there anything I can do to help?" And I was like, "No, I just need housekeeping." So a few minutes later, as I am tentatively trying to get dressed, there is a much bolder knock on the door. And when I open the door, there is the head of housekeeping who looks like a linebacker for the Buffalo Bills. And she says, "Oh, we're putting you in an ambulance." And I said, "Oh, no, God, no." So I go back and forth with her for a few minutes, and finally I convince her to give me $25 and put me in a cab to the nearest emergency room. After all, I have my pride. So I take my purse, I take my phone, I'm kind of clothed, and I've got the towel to my face, a clean one, and I go. Now the next scene is completely imaginary in my head, but I assume at some point he went up to the room, opened the door, realized I'm missing, my phone is missing, my purse is missing, he has a message on his phone that says blah, 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 right? And the bedroom looks like that scene from The Shining with the twins and the blood in the hallway. So he freaks out, and he runs down to the front desk, and I know for a fact that because he was freaking out, he said to the front desk, "Oh, dear God, what did you do with her?" Apparently, at some point later, the entire hotel had stopped what they were doing, and everyone was looking for my bloody and battered body when they find this tiny, terrified head of security eating his lunch in the basement, who, under threat of bodily harm, admits he put me in a cab. There are no less than 12 hospitals in the inner Baltimore area, and $90 in cab fare, and 45 minutes later, he finds where I am. Now, I didn't realize, A, because I've never been in a hospital this big, and B, because I've had no food but been on a morphine drip for many hours at this point, that he wasn't getting any of my text messages. Because they have a machine in this hospital that shuts off your cell phone so it won't interfere with the life-saving equipment. I haven't had anybody come see me all day. I am delirious. And when he throws back the curtain and comes into the room, what kicks in? My pride. And I throw my hands up in front of my face and I scream, get out, I don't want you here." So the moral of this story is twofold. One, if you ever get hurt, don't let your pride get in the way of going to the hospital and having a 9-hour surgery to repair your nose. The second thing is, if you get hurt in a hotel room, and when that person comes to see you, you yell, get out, I don't want you here, you will have the head of security, 2 Baltimore police officers, the head of the nurses and the head doctor come in and arrest that fine young gentleman because they assume you didn't break your nose yourself. Thank you.